Hi, everyone. I'm Gold Derby News and Features Editor Ray RIchmond, and welcome to our Q&A panel of the making of the CBS single-camera comedy series Ghost that was recently renewed for a fourth season, which is basically like 16 years in network TV years. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined from the show by Joe Port and Joe Wiseman, aka the Joes, the Ghost's co-creators, executive producers, and showrunners. Rebecca Wisocky, the actress who portrays the stuffy but sensitive Gilded Age ghost Hetty. Sheila Carrasco, who plays the perpetually high hippie Flower. Writer Sophia Lear, and director Jude Weng. Welcome to all of you ghost folk. The reason that Rebecca, Sheila, Sophia, and Jude in particular are here, besides their good looks, is that they're key performers as well as writer and director of the seminal Ghosts episode entitled Holes Are Bad that premiered on April 18th. We're going to exclusively do a deep dive into that half hour today. I'll let all of you elaborate on the key storylines and how they all came to be. Let's start out with you, Joe Port and Joe Wiseman. Talk about your overall vision for season 3 and where the storylines for what we learn in Holes Are Bad came from, maybe starting with the writer's room.
Well, sure. So, we started the season knowing that the previous season, season 2, we left with a cliffhanger. Who got sucked off? Who, in our show, when a ghost ascends, the ghosts call it, they get sucked off. And there was a mystery ascension at the end of the season. So we knew that we had to answer that question and follow the repercussions of that answer. And that was going to be a big part of this season. And we also knew, we always have like a few sort of like big sort of unknowns and mysteries about some of the ghosts, one of which was Hetty's death. We never really revealed that. So we knew that we would probably like to answer, we don't know how Sass died. We don't know how Hetty died. We don't know Hetty's power. We also didn't know Sass's power at the beginning. So we revealed Sass's power, and then in episode 8, we revealed the nature of Hetty's death. And then other than that, it was a shortened season because the strike. So we did 10 episodes rather than 22. So that sort of dictated some of the storytelling. We have a very large cast. So we wanted to make sure that everyone got featured in at least one episode. Yeah. And that's about it. That was about, that was basically our philosophy for this season, was to sort of make sure it was featured and answer some questions, and obviously reveal who got sucked off and what that means.
Yeah, and I think I was obsessed since season 1 with answering. I like to go on Reddit and the internet and see what people have questions about, and almost nobody else had any question about this one particular detail, but it bothered me a lot that in the season 1 episode, The Vault, that the ghosts didn't know that there had been a vault, this secret vault built, and because I was just like, they would know, they would have seen it being built. So we wanted to answer that question to make ourselves happy, and maybe one guy on Reddit that had mentioned it in the last 3 years. So that was sort of the genesis.
People always point out the smallest things, but no one mentioned what we thought.
No, it didn't bother anybody. But but in the aftermath, a couple people have been like, "Oh yeah, I kind of remembered that. Thanks for answering that question." But and also, I also wanted to. I thought it would be very interesting to have one of the ghosts die by suicide. It's like it's something that obviously probably not touched a lot on in half-hour comedies. It's affected members of my family, and it was just something that I thought would be an interesting subject to delve into, and boy, it was. And then the people on this Zoom and many others, contributed to a very powerful episode.
Rebecca, when did you find out that Hetty died by her own hand, as well as her surprisingly moving backstory and the sort of conversations you had with the Joes and Sophia and Jude prior to filming?
Well, we have gotten last minute plot twists before, but this one they were kind enough to approach me about a month before we shot it, right, guys? And I was so grateful that they wanted to involve me in that conversation, and we spoke about it a lot, about how she might have done it. exactly like what was the motor behind why she would have done it. It was really important to me that we not land in a place of shame about it. I thought it was just a stroke of genius that they tied it to this revelation about how to get flour out of the well, and this great metaphor for, you know, Hetty was in a well for lack of communication and not knowing how to ask for help, and of despair in her life. And Sheila, of course, flour, of course, is in a literal well. And, you know, there's so many great little twists and little things that connect all of us together, all of these ghosts. Yeah, so they talked to me about it early. And, you know, both the Joes and I spoke with mental health professionals about it. And it was really intense to perform, though. I have to be honest with you. You know, I spend so much time constricted in that corset, which is so beautiful, but is uncomfortable. And then for several days of filming, I also had that elaborate rig underneath my costume as well. So I found it kind of triggering and useful, of course, as an actor. But yeah, I was also initially concerned when they said that you know, she'd have to pull out the 20 feet of telephone cord. How is that not going to be just this fantastic comedic moment, like a clown pulling scarves from their sleeve? I thought, well, that's, but it didn't. It ended up being, of course, incredibly moving in there. And I think everyone on set that day was really affected by it.
Boy, it's certainly hard to, have to combine joy and mirth with, sensitivity and some kind of a heavy subject. You
The
guys
show
pulled
does
it up.
that really, really well.
They pulled it off brilliantly. I mean, and ended up at the end having this teachable moment about suicide that you address at the end of the episode.
It's a lesson that my character took 150 years to learn. And again, that's one of the great things about the structure and the premise of the show, is that you can watch characters grow and get it or not get it over a course of some of them thousands of years. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting to like get to, it's the one thing, with like death, you never hear about it from the person who died from their perspective. And so that it was such an interesting thing that you could only do on this show.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. No one tells you about what led up to their suicide.
Yeah, I mean, people often say that like suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and so you never get to hear about, that somebody wished they could have done it a different way. Could have made a different choice, I mean.
Exactly, yeah. Now, Sheila, tell us why you disappeared from the show for so long this season. I heard something about a pregnancy, and how excited you were to be back on the set with everyone, and how excited America was concluding our long national nightmare.
Yeah, and it's really good to be back. I got pregnant at the start of the strike, and the cliffhanger and the episode that we filmed, the finale of season 2 had already, I believe, aired, and we'd obviously shot that months earlier. So my pregnancy was not planned in that sense, that we knew Flower was going to be leaving. It just, for me, on my end, was this wonderful, happy coincidence that it all kind of worked out for the character. But I know that the Joes, went down several lanes of like who should get sucked off. So I'm just so happy how it all turned out in the end, that it was Flower, or at least that we thought it was Flower, because it made a lot of sense. And it also enabled me to have a really, really wonderful maternity leave with my baby. And I got to come back when I was ready. And I'm so grateful I got to come back in this episode in particular, telling this story. So yeah, was just this crazy journey. It was really wild seeing the first episode of the season, essentially watching my own funeral and watching in real time the fans react, and even feeling like I'm gone. I had serious FOMO, like in my postpartum bliss, with watching all the BTS on set. But much like Flower, who was not too far away on the Woodstone property the whole time in this well, screaming for help, I was not too far away, right there with the cast. I felt very close as they were all making season 3. So yeah, it's just, it all feels like a blur now, but it felt like forever to be away from the show. So I'm just really happy to be back in this capacity, and also to be directed by Jude Weng, who did such a brilliant job, and in such an incredible episode, so beautifully performed by Rebecca.
Was it hard to keep the secret for as long as you had to keep it, Sheila? I mean, were you threatened with actual death if you revealed anything, which would have been ironic, of course, given that you're already long dead?
No, actually, everyone was pretty chill because, people knew I was having a baby. So I think the fans connected some dots, or at least some of the fans. But most people really thought I was sucked off. So I got a lot of texts and DMs like, hey, I'm thinking of you. And also like, great choice, like being a mom and all that stuff, which is also, yeah, I'm glad I was home with my baby, but I was also wanting to tell everyone, no, I'm coming back. I want to come back. And yeah, it was just really, really hard to hold that back. I even had to not tell certain family members because I knew that they were going to get on Facebook and somehow share the news. I had to make sure that they didn't post anything while I was in Montreal with like snow in the background because people would figure that out too. So now the cat's out of the bag and I can breathe.
Well, because you wanted to have a baby, though, all of America was depressed. So, but you gave them joy again by coming back.
Yeah.
Rebecca, I love the poignancy of having the method you used to commit, as you mentioned, or as one of the Joes mentioned, the method used to commit suicide dovetail with saving flour. That was pretty brilliant to be able to combine the two.
Yeah, and not only that, that my character speaks about her class and privilege and wealth, and it is up until this point at least been the most important thing to her. And her telephone, it being the first in the county, is such an incredible source of pride for her. So to have the telephone be the manner by which she takes her own life, and also ironically be the one way that she might have been able to find her way out of this predicament if she had only known how it worked. I thought was just so beautiful, yeah, I mean, it's the kind of, again, it's the silliness. It's the in that moment, in that scene where I'm, that beautiful scene that Sophia wrote, where
Only
well, what she finally reveals to Rose McIver and Brandon Scott Jones's characters, she's processing out loud why she, all of a sudden, it took her 150 years to realize that the thing of value that she actually had was not her wealth, but her presence and her existence for her son. That was a message I was really proud to send. And I think that the writers, and Jude all crafted that very, very well. But then there's still a moment, even in that scene, for her to, say, but I didn't even know that the telephone rang out. I mean, I don't know. I just think it's
That's right. You didn't know you could receive calls. Well, actually, my favorite joke ever, maybe on the show, maybe the revelation that Hetty's telephone number was 4.
I know, that's so good.
That's
And
just-
Brian
that's
Huskey
just
played the
beautiful.
lawyer. He did such a great job. That was a really, really fun scene to shoot. And also we all, as everyone is so fond of asking us, what's it like to wear the same costume every day? Well, it's wonderful because the costumes are wonderful. But when we do get these flashback moments, and I was so lucky to have 2 of them this season, our costume designer, Carmen Ali, and her whole team are freaking geniuses. I think it took 250 hours to make the flashback look where I play myself at 25, and 257 hours of my hair and makeup. but no, I mean, so, and again, I get another good flashback look in this one as well. So the teams and the craftspeople and, on the show are all come together, and we're all, the like-mindedness of purpose is very, very gratifying.
Yeah, I'm going to want to actually bring up a little bit more about the craftspeople a little bit later here in our panel. But just to complete this, how has the fan response been, Rebecca and Sheila, since Hoes Are Bad aired?
I mean, amazing, so wonderful. It's so awesome to see how many people love the show. I won't speak for Rebecca because, but people have been reaching out. So happy the flower's back, and also just so moved by the whole episode in general. And I'm just so thrilled that, it spoke to people, and I hope it sparked more conversations for them.
We've heard from the beginning with the show that while it's crazy and it's raucous and it's funny and it's genuinely funny show, we hear constantly from the audience that it is also inspired, conversations in families that most likely wouldn't have happened otherwise. It's a family show. There's kind of one of us in everybody's family, and it's kind of bridged some gaps of opinion and prejudice in families. And this, I think this episode certainly did the same. I was really, really moved by the response that I got from people sharing their experiences and the experiences in their family with suicide and with community and conversation and being able to ask for help. I think it was, again, I'm proud of the show on any given day, but this episode made me really especially proud.
You know, I think everybody, when you think of it, not to get too heavy here, everybody has been touched by suicide in some way, whether it's a family member or a friend or someone simply threatening it, or having feelings toward that yourself. Everybody has had some kind of brush with it. So I think there's a real relatability even from a silly show like this.
Yeah, our show does a great job at just kind of normalizing the full scope of human emotion. And it can be all kinds of things. It can be ridiculous and funny and dark. It can be dark. People have dark thoughts. And to be able to see that on a half-hour sitcom, I think felt really accessible and liberating to a lot of people. That's what I've heard, at least.
Yeah,
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It was important to us that the episode be very funny as well. You know, like sometimes when people tackle difficult subjects, I think maybe that gets sacrificed, but you know, I think that's one reason why we're so relieved and happy to have Sheila and Flower, her character, back. It's just like I just really missed her, and like it's just such a breath of fresh air. Like at the end of this episode in Sophia's elegant script, Flower you know, has this great, we call it a treacle cutter in sitcom rooms, where like, you know, the heavy moment is undercut by something very you know, something funny, and she reveals her great secret to Hetty in response to Hetty having revealed her secret, you know. And it's this long-running joke where Flower's constantly telling everybody that she robbed a bank, thinking that they never heard that before. So I thought it was a great welcome back to the show moment for Flower. And
I love that too. I love that you call it treacle cutting. I did not know that, because that it also felt that way for me as an actor in that scene. The thing that actually became the most moving for my character was to just know, oh, she's back, and she's just as ridiculous as she's ever been. And it just, I mean, yeah, it was kind of the most emotional that I think I ended up getting in that scene, which, and yeah, we all love Flower very much. It felt like an arm was missing. I mean, you guys have crafted a show that there's not a single superfluous member of this ensemble. And so it was, yeah, it was very nice to have you back.
Thanks,
There
guys.
were so many great treacle cutters actually in this episode. So really hats off to Sophia and the Joes and the writing team. I mean, there could be t-shirts made. Like one of my favorite lines was, "Grab onto this, you dirty bohemian."
Yeah.
I mean, like seconds after this incredibly dramatic reveal, that line that Rebecca puts out there just kills me every time I've watched it.
The action of that whole part where she takes out the rope, we are struck by that, and then lowering it down and getting Flower out of the well. Like my heart was racing, and it was so brilliantly edited and directed. And really when we shot that, when I was getting out of the well and hugging everyone, it's like, it's so great to see you guys. There were tears in our eyes, because it was the first time that we had all been on set together the whole season since last year as ghosts. And it was so nice to shoot that scene with everyone, because it felt very real. And I felt like we were really just taking each other in that moment and really hugging, because sometimes I fake hug. So
I haven't forgotten about you, Sophia and Jude. I know you had already just piped in, Jude, but talk about how you approached this episode that was designed to be both funny and affecting, and did an incredible job with both, incorporating, you know, the heavy subject matter without sacrificing the laughs and the inherent challenges in that. Maybe start with you, Sophia.
Yeah, I mean, it was so much fun to write this episode where there's answering the one Reddit user who wants to know why those guys didn't know about the vault, and Stephanie's back, and we find out what really happened with who got sucked off. And you know, we also see Nancy, and you know, find out about it wasn't a basement ghost, and Flower's back, and we had this huge reveal with Hetty and how she died. So as a writer, there was just so much fun stuff and you know, the story Isaac and Sass being in the hole and about patience was just like, so I love learning about all of their backstories. So it was just such a fun episode to write.
And how about you, Jude?
Yeah, I would say directorially, I think Rebecca said it really well. Like in real life, we are sometimes very funny and then we whipsaw to something very dramatic. And that's very realistic, actually. When I was first handed the script and I looked at the title, I was like, oh, what an interesting title, Holes Are Bad. And in the process of prepping and then filming it, it really became so delightful to fully understand what that title meant, because it was a triumvirate of three things. It was a literal hole, right? Flowers literally in a hole. And then there was the character of Hetty being in an emotional hole and making the choice that she did. But then there was Sass also addressing sort of this funny plot hole of when does floor become floor and wall, wall. And so this title actually became this very grounding focus for me in terms of how we were going to bounce around with these three very different tones. And it was such a fun opportunity to just really explore visually what that meant. Tone, the joy of bringing out the most serious moment in the midst of a laugh is incredibly joyful, but it really requires a lot of fine tuning. And one of the most fun Reddit holes I've dived down is reading about all the people's reactions to Trevor. Trevor's reaction to seeing the reveal of the rope around Hetty. I mean, the words people use are gutted. They were gutted to see Trevor be so gutted. And then the thousands of debates over Trevor's reaction once he was in a room talking about it in the aftermath. And people debated, oh, he's so casual. Why is he being so casual? And it's just interesting to have other people then defend, no, Trevor's being true to himself. He's a bit of a finance bro. He's not in touch with his own feelings. He does care about Hetty. He just doesn't know how to talk about it in the moment. And so to know that our audiences are so invested and all these like nuances of the episode is really rewarding and validating. And Rebecca and Sheila, hats off. You guys were just amazing to work with.
It really is a testament to the show and how powerful the comedy is and the drama, the dramatic elements that people are so invested in the characters, and that's the whole thing. Whenever, as a former TV critic, whenever I watch shows or talk to people about shows, it's all about the characters, the writing, of course, but the characters. Without people that you care about, you don't have much in terms of any kind of show or any kind of film or any kind of entertainment project. And this show really seems so hyper aware of that. Jude and Sophia, how is this different from other episodes of TV that both of you have written and directed before? Like, I don't know, New Girl or Blackish, just to toss out a few names.
I mean, it truly could not be more different. Like New Girl or like almost any show I've written on is like basically like people in a living room, or like maybe they're in a bedroom, or maybe in their kitchen, and they're like talking about something, they're fighting, And the show is so crazy and bizarre of some characters can't hear each other, which just writing really takes some getting used to, of like that not everybody in a scene can hear what other people are saying, and they're from different time periods, and there's so much backstory and canon about what's happened, and it really is just a very different show. Everyone's dead, they're ghosts. I've never written for ghosts before. And also on set, I remember there was like a moment where, Rebecca, you were practicing pulling the telephone cord and just practicing with the telephone, and the props guy who does props like almost had a heart attack, like watching the phone almost fall off, because it was like it was the one telephone that we had, and it was this prop that's from the real time period, and just working with all these incredible period details is really, so I felt like I was on a Scorsese set or something. The amount of
to give a shout out to Zoe Sokoloropoulos, who's our production designer, who we all adore. And I mean, I'd like to think of that house and that property as the 11th major character on our show. There's just so much history. There's so many details. It's the most beautiful set I've ever worked on. And every time we do a flashback and go to a different period, Zoe and her team completely redressed the whole house. And you know, every time we have a party, even though our lead characters are running a failing Airbnb, they somehow have a really great party budget because everything is like decked to the nines. But they
For the
really
ghosts.
go all out.
Yeah.
But
For the ghosts. They're
Yeah,
doing it
exactly.
just for the ghosts. No one else is going to see it, but they do it.
And also because we shot, because of the abbreviated season, we were in Montreal entirely in the winter. There maybe is one outdoor shot in the entire season. So when we're out there rescuing her from the well and we're running through the forest and you see the facade of the house, that is all set that Zoe and her team built. So I mean, I just think it looks fantastic to be able to pull that off and to do it, you know, well, and to light it well and everything. Anyway, we were obviously all very in love with our crew, but Zoe in particular.
Your craftspeople do an amazing job, and I wanted to get back to that. I know we touched on it earlier, like you said, the production design and the costume design and the hair and makeup. Everything is just the editing. You know, it's not easy to put this much thought and you know, loving care into 22 minutes and make it sing, you know, and have everyone get their time that they need on screen. I imagine Joe and Joe feel pretty lucky to have the team that you've got in place.
100%. And, you know, you mentioned, you know, the look of the show is very important to the tone. You know, it does not look like a traditional half-hour, you know, sitcom that you see on network television. It's got, you know, everything is so beautiful. It looks like a Merchant Ivory film. You know, shout out to Michelle St. Martin, who's our director of photography. He makes everything look incredible. We're super lucky. Our crew in Montreal, they're wonderful. They're all on the top of their game, and we're very lucky to have them.
How does tackling different topics surrounding the afterlife and, you know, having regret serve the larger narrative of the show? Joe Porter, Joe Wiseman.
I mean, I think it's a tremendous opportunity that you know, the British people who created the UK Ghosts came up with an incredible premise, you know, which we're lucky to adapt. And you know, we're able to access stuff, you know, emotions and subject matter that you wouldn't be able to in a normal sitcom. You know, we can do that very easily because, you know, life and death are so much at the center of the show. So I mean, it's just a really cool storytelling device that we get to you know, explore.
And you know, it's true. It really doesn't look like a regular network show in any way, and it really stands out for that reason. I give CBS a lot of props for backing a show like that is so different. And look, it can be a success. It's amazing when you allow creativity to thrive that you can actually find success. One of the things I think I so appreciate about Ghosts, and I'll say this to all six of you here, is that you're always aware that you're watching a comedy. You know, it's so smart, but it's also, you know, just blissfully goofy. And I say that with love. Making us laugh doesn't always seem to be the goal, I think, of TV comedy anymore. Sometimes it's just about making us uncomfortable, but that's never true of Ghosts. Is that something you're always hyper aware of when you're doing this? That's like, this has got to be a comedy, you know, laughs and mirth and joy still have to be at the center of this.
100%. Yeah, that was one of the things we reacted to when we were first sent the British series, was like, this was such a unique show that's hard funny, and then also had a lot of heart. And it's like, I think that's just a great combination. You know, I'm a fan of comedies. I love to laugh a lot when I watch a comedy. And so it's important to us that the show is funny. But at the same time, we also would like to tell stories that in this fantastical world are still grounded within the reality and the rules that we set up. And we like to purposefully get to places that you know, are emotional and positive. You know, I like that the show always has a mostly positive message about the world and about people and about friendship and family. And I just like that.
Yeah, I mean, we just, in the writer's room, we try to just write a show that we want to watch. You know, and we want it to be funny. We want to feel something. And I think we're so lucky just to have this cast. They're so, you know, they're all so strong. And, you know, at first it was a script, but then these actors came in and it was so clear, like, you know, right from the get-go, who was right for each role. And you know, it only takes one person to be that person. And just the characters have so evolved and grown because of who we've placed in those roles. We're incredibly lucky.
Do you get a lot of network notes or feedback, Joe and Joe, from the network? I mean, you know, saying, you know, we'd like to see more of this or more of that, or, you know, maybe their family members have told them things. Do you have quite a bit of freedom in what we see?
Yeah, you know, obviously, you know, they give us thoughts and notes, and we digest it all. But they have been wonderful partners. You know, they always give notes that are constructive, and if we, you know, push back and feel differently, it's a conversation, and they're understanding. So we have a very good relationship with the studio and the network, and they've been supportive of the show from the get-go. Like you said, to their credit, this is not, you know, does not look like a traditional CBS sitcom, but they believed in it, and it's been doing well for them.
How much were you inspired by the British version, and you know, things that you took from there and tried to incorporate? Because it's clearly it's adapted, but it's still a far different show.
Yeah, you know, I think I mean, obviously early on we you know, it was a huge guide for us, and you know, the whole premise is based on that. But quite quickly, I think we kind of departed and started turning it into its own thing. Part of it is is being on a network and having the show be, you know, 22 minutes long. I think it just lent itself to like a certain pace, you know, like I feel like the show is really moves along, and because it has to, you know, we're telling a lot of stories. We have 10 characters and we're trying to get a lot done. And I like how that sort of has become part of the writing.
Yeah, for me, I was a huge fan of the BBC Ghost. So when we were going into the pilot and I was making choices for Flower, because of course you want to get it right for the pilot, I was really influenced by the character Kitty that was played by Lolly, beautifully played. And because I don't have an exact counterpart, I felt like I could really watch a show and not be too like, oh, in my head about copying somebody. But I was really struck by how bright and smiley she was, and how beautifully that filled out the tableau of the whole ensemble. So I just wanted to be a different color in the painting as a whole, and it really helped me find my way into Flower, who leads with so much heart and positive intentions, just wanting to connect and be everyone's best friend. So it really, I just think that the whole cast all around is so brilliant, and the choices that they made, and all their characters are so dynamic. And I'm so proud to be a part of an ensemble where everyone kind of has their little, you know, part of the picture that they're filling out. So it really helped me.
For the Joes again, tell us a little more about maybe expanding the Ghost world this season, or what might be on the drawing board for season 4, or anything you could tell us.
Yeah, so you know, there's a big event happens at the end of season 3 where you know, Isaac is kidnapped, dirt napped by patients, and so we're definitely going to follow that storyline. We're going to see where she's taken Isaac, what she wants.
Patience being a vengeful Puritan who Isaac had wronged and damned to a eternity in the dirt by sneezing.
Who we heard about first in this episode, was her bad. And that was one of the you know, I loved the audience reaction to this episode, and everyone, you know, obviously reacted to the Hetty story and Flower being back, but a lot of people were also kind of like, we're going to meet Patience, right? And that delighted us, because the second we sort of came up with her in the writer's room, we were all very delighted, and we're sort of like, yeah, we kind of have to, we can't mention a feral Puritan woman roaming the dirt and not pay that off eventually.
Totally.
Yeah, so we have that to look forward to in season 4.
Rebecca and Sheila, do your friends or family members ever suggest like things that your characters should do to you, like here's what you should, here's where you should go now? Do they like ever pitch storylines your way?
No.
Okay, good.
Family are all big fans. My mother always gives me this note. She'll text and she'll talk about how cute the show is and how everybody has these what she loves and doesn't love. But her review always consists of good facials this week. That's how she reviews my acting. Really good facials.
Yeah, my mom has all kinds of theories after every episode, and I didn't tell her, how I was going to be found. But she knew
You didn't even tell your mother?
No, well, she knew I was coming back, but I didn't tell her where I was. Because I wanted them to be surprised, but she was going, now, Sheila, how are you going to, she's from Georgia, and she's like, how are you going to come back out of the owl's body as really thought I was going to be out. Now, why didn't at the end of the first episode you at least say something to Jay as you were flying away?
That's so sweet. Yeah, I don't give spoilers either. My mom will ask a whole bunch of questions and she's like, no, I don't want to know. But wait, but hang on. No, tell me. So yeah, everyone's very invested.
Now, I just gotta ask, what does a show have to do to get an Emmy nomination or two? I mean,
Well, you tell us.
I think appearing on Gold Derby is part of it. But if you can get a BAFTA nomination, come on, America. Geez, I mean, right? Since Modern Family left the air, actually, I think it's tough for a broadcast network sitcom to get any kind of love. Too often, it's where you are rather than what you are. You know what I mean? It seems like sometimes you might be penalized being at a network, which is ridiculous. So I'm telling you that it's time for Ghosts to get some Emmy nominations.
Thank you.
Well, and I can say unbiased because I was not in most of season 3. I think this is our best season yet. And I think it was so amazing. And every week I would read the episodes as they came in and was just blown away. And it was so fun to watch not being in the episodes too, because I got to just renew all my crushes on all my actors that were in the show with me. And the Joes are so brilliant. So I agree. I think it should get an Emmy nom too.
I will say, if a lot of shows, we try to make this show like lightly serialized, but you could definitely jump in and enjoy almost any episode. So if you haven't seen Ghosts, I would check out this episode in particular. This Holes Are Bad, the 8th episode of this 3rd season, and it's I think it's an example of what the show can do. It's
very self-contained too. You're right. You don't have to have seen anything from the show before to understand and appreciate it. And which I imagine Sheila and Jude, you're also aware of when you're writing and directing something, that you want this to be for the fans, but you want it to be for the casual fan too.
Yes, I love casual fans.
Gonna make that t-shirt.
We're just trying to run the gamut here. I think we're actually going to leave things there. All episodes of Ghosts to date can be streamed on Paramount Plus. I appreciate you joining us at Gold Derby today and giving us such a spirited taste of the craft behind Ghosts, and in particular the pivotal Holes Are Bad episode. Thanks to Joe Port and Joe Wiseman, to Rebecca Wisocky, to Sheila Carrasco, to Sophia Lear, and last but not least to Jude Weng. Best of luck to you all during Emmy season and every season.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.